Welcome to the latest show of ATSU Lunch and Learn. Hi, I'm Dan Martin. I'm the Director of Wellness Programs for AT Still University. Before we start the show today, I want to remind everyone that you can participate as well as watch on the live stream, which is live at atsu.edu. Or for those of you who prefer Facebook, there's a Facebook feed that you can get to right now, and this would allow you to not only watch but to participate and give us a live chat if you'd want to. A little bit later on, this will be downloaded to the YouTube channel where you can watch it in high def or refer other people to take a look at what they were talking about today on the Lunch and Learn. Throughout the lifespan, what we've learned is there are times when people are a little bit stressed and overwhelmed, and there might be the need to reach out and get some help with those issues that have caused you that emotional stress and made you feel overwhelmed. ATSU mental health and wellness counselors are caring experts who are there to help the students with these particular needs. Joining us today are Art Matthews from the Arizona ATSU campus and Sarah Thomas right here on the Missouri campus. So tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
All right, as the wellness counselors here, we see students and spouses for all issues that may come up, stress, anxiety, depression, but also just help students develop good wellness plans. And we encourage them to come as prevention to help them with that. We also provide wellness programming. I work with you, Dan, and Art. We work on different things like mental health first aid, which we proudly now in Missouri have over 120 trained. And Art can tell you about Arizona.
We have 131 people trained now, and we're setting up a training for, I think it's the 27th, 29th of this month, as well as December 3rd, 4th, and 6th. So if you're interested in that on the Arizona campus, you can get a hold of us, and we'll try and get you registered for that. I do want to make sure that we don't leave out Tom Van Vleck. He is not with us today, but he is still with the university, and he's also part of our mental health wellness program.
I've been through that training myself, and I can tell you from an employee point of view, I learned a lot, and I would encourage everybody to take advantage of these opportunities. I know there's one coming up in the next semester here on our campus, and Art, I think not only can the employees benefit, but certainly students have taken part before.
Oh yeah, we train the students and employees and to help one another, fellow students, for staff and faculty to help our students, but it's like the CPR for the mental health world, so we can have these skills to help our friends and family and those in the community.
Free of charge, and it's about an 8-hour class, and I found it to be really great resources to have.
Yep, for sure.
And some of our programs are actually looking at making it a part of their curriculum, so I really appreciate that. I think it's a great thing. Our OT program did that last year for the first year OT students.
So society in general seems like there's more stressors in our life than ever. And I would say professional healthcare degree school is probably even a little more stressful than the way society seems to be reacting right now. Can we speak to a little bit of those different challenges that people are up against in today's world?
Well, you know, for our students, I often say I wish we could put your life on pause while you complete medical, dental, professional school, but we just can't. So our students face all the same challenges as we do, and everybody does, with stress and mental health, in addition to the curriculum that they're going through to be a healthcare provider. And just, we all see anxiety and stress in our lives, whether it's our school, our careers, our families, and so we just encourage everybody to have a good wellness plan and to integrate that to every day. So it's not your default, and it's not, it's not something you're striving to find when you're not doing well, that you
want to get upstream.
Yeah.
You want to see it come. And I think when people tell me they're not stressed at all, I do worry about them because they're not addressing it proactively. Would you agree, Art?
Yeah, and I think you can tell by the body language of that person just exactly how much they really mean, oh, I have no stress. Because the body keeps the score, and it keeps, we'll have tension somewhere in our bodies, or there'll be, oh, my neck is sore, I've got a headache, and how's your stress management? Oh, I don't have stress. Okay.
So meeting it head on, shaking hands with it, knowing what coming. I think, like you're mentioning, a plan. I mean, for a lot of us, we choose to try to remain active. I also try to touch base with people that I have relationships with on a regular basis. I've certainly tried to strive myself to have a faith center in my life, and know that a few of those things are working for myself, as well as I do try to plan, and I know we were talking about this, to eat a healthy, nutritious kind of diet and not be caught just asleep at the fork and feeling
Right.
those stresses too.
Yeah, that body, mind, and spirit, it's really important. Look at all those dimensions of our wellness and think about ways that we would like to do better, or things that are working and things that bring us joy we want to continue to do. One thing that we see a lot, or I feel a lot, is the constant stream of electronics in our phones. And I encourage people to kind of break up with your phone. Just remember, you're in charge. You can set those notifications off. A lot of times we seek our phones or our tablets or even Netflix to relax. And sometimes we don't really feel relaxed after we indulge in that. We often feel overwhelmed or stressed. And so just rethink that. Is this really what I want to do to relax? And maybe I should do something else.
And not take pictures of your food and put them online nonstop.
Some
I'm not sure if
of that's great, but we don't have to document all of our parts of our life. Be present, be in the moment.
Oh, that's I refer to that as a weapon of mass distraction that you just pulled out there, and I would advise to be very careful with that. Meter yourself, and if you see an addictive behavior, put it away.
Yeah.
And it is also funny. You'll be in a line and someone's checking their phone, and if you just watch, the rest of the people standing in the airport are waiting in the line. Everybody pulls that phone out. What were you going to say, Art?
And Facebook, people have been researching how Facebook affects our mood. And what we're finding is that there are a lot of people that don't feel good about themselves after they've been on Facebook looking at other people's pictures, because people don't typically put pictures up of things that are difficult for them or aren't going well. So we get a skewed perspective of what life is really like for other people, and then we compare what we're going through. And so people actually come away sometimes feeling depressed or, inadequate looking at what's on Facebook for other people's feeds.
That Facebook envy thing that I think is a frivolous waste of time, but not if you're watching the Lunch and Learn today on the Facebook. We think this is a high quality choice today.
Yeah.
We can make it a good tool. It can be a tool to connect, and we have to be mindful of what we're doing all the time.
Yeah, and I think when you put down the phone and you begin to have real conversations with people in the same room with you, I think those exchanges are so incredibly positive. And when you just stop the stream, and I think that's what we were chatting a little bit about, life seems so much more stressful because it's coming at us nonstop, 24/7 news channels and different outlets like that. There seems to be no end to the stream of actually bad news. And inevitably, I guess that's because they have to go looking for things that probably were going on before, but we just didn't know about it as much.
And we do that with ourselves. We often spend our time thinking of the bad things and we don't focus on the good. So the news does the same thing. How often do you see a great news channel? Well, we often see the things most people want to know, but do that to yourself. Like, think of what brings you joy and think about the good things in your life.
Right, that gratitude. And I would also agree that we're not the sum of the things we're not. We're the sum of the things we are. And I think, like Art's saying, when we look at what other people have, we feel inadequate about ourselves. And I don't think that's real. I think that just becomes the way we manifest things.
Yeah. And that's something I think, prior generations didn't have that constant comparison to others in their face all the time. And so just know, we can step away.
And that idea of stepping away or being mindful, where you pre-plan to have some reflective time where you're going to unplug and do it consciously. I think whether it's yoga or whether you just do it for yourself, that this is a time that you need to take a break, or if you pre-plan it.
Right.
I just got back from a conference last week in Newport Beach, California. It was the U.S. Journal conference. And mindfulness and mindfulness meditation and concentrative meditation were a really big part of the whole conference. And, it doesn't take more than a couple of minutes throughout the day, and literally 2 minutes. Take 2 minutes in the morning, 2 minutes at lunchtime, 2 minutes in the evening to really disconnect. And if you don't know much about mindfulness, go online, go to YouTube and look for my email address. I've got a YouTube channel, and I've got all sorts of things that I've collected into a playlist on mindfulness, and learn about it and start practicing it, because it really is an effective way to de-stress in a hurry, and then you can get back to life.
Yeah, and one way you can use those apps for good is there are good apps. There's apps that are proven, evidence-based to help guide you, because a lot of people need support in being guided through meditation and being mindful at first. There's one, Calm is one that I like, that's my favorite, but many of our students love Headspace. Insight Timer is another great one. The founder of mindfulness-based stress reduction, John Kabat-Zinn, my favorite statement he says is that if you're breathing, there's more right with you than is wrong with you. And I think that's a great statement to just think about when our days aren't going as planned. There's still more right with me than is wrong with me today.
John Kabat also has been huge in the wellness world in general, not just the mindfulness, but that he's also advised people, much like you said, Art, that a couple minutes, if you just get outside and walk a little, get out in the unbuilt environment, whether you could take a walk in the trees, the feelings of relief are almost immediate. They say in the first couple minutes, you get the biggest hit of dopamine to your brain, where it begins to make you feel like you're a little less stressed. It happens almost immediately. So you don't have to set aside hours or look at this complex as too complex. I think we overthink a lot of these things too.
The thing is, we've got to get off of autopilot. Stop trying to multitask. The human brain doesn't multitask. Computers really don't multitask. They have multiple cores, and they're doing things sort of at the same time, but each of those cores can only do one thing at a time. This only has one core. We can only do one thing at a time. So pay attention and be aware of the sensory experience of whatever you're doing. If it's walking outside, be in that moment and really experience that. Smell the smells, feel the wind, listen to the sound of your feet on the ground. Be in that moment, but don't, as things intrude, because they will, because we're trying all the time to not forget things or plan ahead. As they intrude, you go, okay, noted, I acknowledge that, now I'm going to get back to what I was doing.
Yeah, I think that's that idea of stepping off the treadmill of life where everything's coming at you. Certainly students have commented that, even when we do give them a break, that they don't take a break. They use that time then to either travel or do something else, when those breaks aren't just there to fill with other things and trying to clean a few things off your plate. I remember Tim Tucker always talking about this idea of the urgent things you've got to take care of. There's other things that are important, and then there's other things that you let just creep in that steal time from the things that are urgent and that you need to take care of. And I think that's one of those things that I'll always remember.
Yeah, good. So we encourage people to try all these things that we can. Get outside. It's beautiful, of course, in Arizona. It's beautiful in Missouri as well. But sometimes we do need professional help, so we encourage that as well. Like, seek that professional help. Students can come see Art and I, and staff and faculty, employees. Did you know, Dan, that here at ATSU we have an EAP benefit? We get 3 free sessions every year with
and that's for employees.
Therapist.
Yes, that's for the employees, and you do work through Cigna.
Yep, you go to mycigna.com and figure that out.
Yep. That's certainly something we'd encourage all the employees to take advantage in, and certainly the idea of meeting with Art or Sarah or Tom is a wonderful way for the students to possibly get ahead of some of the different stressors in their life. I would also tell you, I know when you were doing the mindful particular thing on a regular basis, I did hear students say, well, I went to the mindful thing and I started doing the breathing and I laid down and I fell right asleep. And I said, that's a pretty good sign that you're tired. I think if you take a pause and you sit for a minute and you quit worrying about things and you're exhausted. Also, I do certainly encourage students to, right when they're done with their day, if they so desire, to be active, go right away. Don't go home and open up things and, maybe make it a continuous part of their day. And then they will say to me, I just sat down for a minute and I fell right asleep after class. And I say, you are totally forgiven. No, skip a workout when you're, and that idea of them listening to their own bodies and acknowledging that they're working with stress levels. Our own studies have indicated that they do compress their sleep. And we're heading into a study time here where there's some things right before the break that are going to create probably some patterns that they've either tried before that didn't work and they're going to do them again. You would think maybe a new pattern would emerge that might be a new strategy if you know that just cramming for things has not panned out for you in the past.
Correct. Sleep is obviously so important. Decreased sleep increases our stress, increases that hormone that makes us gain weight, it makes us cranky, all those things. So just prioritize sleep. Sleep is so important.
And I've been approached by a number of students recently who are asking me about how do I stay motivated and how do I deal with my procrastination. My first answer is motivation isn't something that comes to you. You don't get motivation and then you do something. You usually have to discipline yourself to get started.
Right.
But that's all you need to do is get started. And then the motivation to continue it will come when you do it and you reward yourself for having made that attempt. And I just had a brain fart and I can't remember the second thing I was
Hey, I might
talk
take off on your motivation point there, and that is, I think motivation is all around us. It's what you choose to embrace, and
Right.
So I take motivation and I look at it as the other word, which is inspiration. I find when I see other people overcoming and they've been dealt a worse lot in life than myself, that inspires me. When I see people who have been through catastrophic problems and they're emerging as total survivors and making the best of their life, that's once again back to that, we're the sum of what we are. We're not the sum of the things we're not. And if you're feeling like you want to start doing something and you're missing the moment by not seizing it, just step back, write it down, journal a little bit, look at your own handwriting. I think you could begin to embrace that on these so many levels of the way your brain, get off the bench, get into the game. This is your life. And
Get reconnected to what was inspiring you in the beginning.
I think it is
Because I
priority
think a lot of
management.
people get away from, what was I doing this for? Where was this getting me?
That power, that small step. Just take that baby step. I struggle with doing the dishes at night, but if I go in there and make myself for 5 minutes, I usually get the dishes done, right?
Stay calm.
And then I
drink
feel
lots
great
of
because
water.
the dishes are done. But yes, you can, that power of the small step. If you want to start an exercise routine, don't start with the goal to run a marathon, right?
Or go to a high-intensity interval class when you
Right.
haven't been working out regularly.
I
I
know.
mean, that would just not be that smart.
But that small step, do a little bit, take a walk, because it usually motivates us to keep going. Like if we see success and we feel success and we feel good about that, we want to continue.
I think the other part of that might be that so many of us are doing a lot of positive things in our lives, but we might just be undercutting some of that by not getting the full benefit. You're that close to getting a lot more out of the good things or the healthy pattern that you're using. But and everybody's going to slide back a little. You know, we know that's the human nature. You're not going to have a perfect life. Everything isn't going to fall into place, even when you've got this great plan that you've come up with. But we're all a work in progress. Nobody's really fit to judge other people. But I do think if you feel guilty and you act on that guilt is good. But if you feel guilty nonstop for years about what you're not doing, chuck the guilt. You know, just embrace the things that you want in life. And like I said, my analogy is get off the bench, get in the game. You can have a better life. You're going to have to make some steps in that direction. Baby steps, maybe.
Yeah. And be present in it. You know, enjoy the parts of your life that are going well and look at the things you have to be grateful for.
Time for a little break. What we've got is we're going to help you to de-stress your life a little bit. We've got some email hints and tips that might allow you to scratch a few things off your list, or at least get some focus to what you're doing with those different things that come in your inbox.
Hi, this is Ben from the Service Desk Department here with some helpful email hints, including the to, CC, and BCC. The use of to. Use the to field to add the name of the person the email directly affects. The to field is also used to include the people that require action. Additionally, the to field can be used for as many people as you need to address directly. Some people mistakenly use the CC field when they should use the to field, which leads to our next topic. The use of CC. CC is better known as carbon copy or courtesy copy. CC is used when you want a person to know about the message, but they are not directly involved. It is used to keep others in the loop. It also allows you to inform the receiver that other people are aware of what is going on. It lets people know if they are expected to take action or if they are just being informed. The use of BCC. BCC is better known as blind carbon copy or blind courtesy copy. BCC is mainly used when sending a large email to an audience. It allows you to send the email without giving away the identity of others involved. And that, my friend, is being courteous. The BCC is especially useful for sensitive situations. Use BCC when you don't want recipients to know who else received the email. When using the BCC, entering your email address in the to field is a good practice. Remember that the appropriate use of all these fields is also important in replies. Clicking Reply All can be a real pain if the message was not addressed correctly in the first place. Speaking of Reply All, be careful when using it. You can easily spam recipients by accident. These are all good things to keep in mind to be a courteous email user. Thanks for listening, and let us know if you like these helpful hints from your service desk.
So the end of the year and the holidays tend to be a wonderful time to get together with family and friends and to celebrate, but for a lot of people, it's not always a joyful time of the year. It brings up memories that maybe aren't as pleasant, as well as, you begin to look around and you see other people having a wonderful holiday, but due to whatever your reasons may be, grief, loss, or something else that's gone on, this season of colder and darker days is inevitably plays hard on a lot of people, Sarah.
That's right. And I think we often get caught up in making, especially if we have children or grandchildren, making these holidays magical. Like there's a certain, it has to be perfect. But perfection is never a good goal to have for us on anything, and just to remember, do what brings you joy and keep things simple. Continue that normal wellness routine. Don't chuck all that out the window with the Thanksgiving turkey. Like, prioritize time for your wellness as well.
I think a good strategy also would be to maybe approach the holidays as right now, to make those resolute decisions that I'm going to do something proactively. I'm going to take that walk before I feel that stress when, my brother says what he always says to me, or just see it coming. And definitely those of us who have been through that a few times, when I see sadness in others, it brings me down, and inevitably I feel that blue time myself.
Yeah.
I think that, we have to realize that we have sometimes dysfunctional family members. It can make the holidays difficult. And for folks that are maybe dreading going home or dreading the holidays a little bit, because of that, they need to think about having an escape plan. Where can I go? What can I do? Can I go take a walk? Do I need to go spend some time at a friend's house or visit some other family? And allow yourself to have alternative plans. Sometimes I think some people may feel afraid that they're going to be pressured into drinking if they might be trying to stop drinking because maybe their family members are really, that's a part of their culture. Again, you come up with some health reason or other reason. You can always blame school if you're a student. I don't want to drink because I don't want to have to deal with the recovery. So, it's not that I wouldn't drink, but I don't want to because of what I have to deal with at school. So coming up maybe with some other people to blame for the choices you're making, especially when they're healthy choices, or having that alternative route that you can go when things are really difficult. If there is somebody that's maybe grieving, a lot of people want to just like pull them into this, come on, let's be with family, let's have a good time. And the grief really needs to be acknowledged for those folks. And if other family members can realize that, there's going to be times when they're feeling good and other times when they're not. And it's not a thing that needs to be fixed. It's okay. They can have that little down moment, and it may be necessary to grieve, to move the grief on. But kind of looking at holidays as not some time that everybody needs to be happy or everybody needs to be together. We can make other plans, and in some cases make new traditions.
I find that if I anticipate nothing, I don't anticipate it being wonderful. I don't anticipate it being bad. I don't get myself running in a direction and then, so I try to, I know it doesn't, I don't overthink it. I show up, I want to be totally present. I acknowledge that other people are grieving and try to not bring me down while I'm still in the moment with them and show that proper concern. But I think some people anticipate too much and they bring that anxiety to the situation, or they get there and it turns into that same fight that I was never, so sometimes we anticipate too much.
That's right. Yeah, prepare yourself mentally as much as you can. Create boundaries where you can. You can create boundaries for yourself or in relationships. Like Art said, maybe just have a new tradition. Like maybe you visit your family at a different time of day, or you don't have to do 20 Thanksgivings and 20 Christmas dinners either. Like there's different ways that we can meet up and spend time with people that we care about. And again, like being in that moment, being present. We don't have to document every single present that's opened or do any of these things. Just be in that moment, because you'll miss them when you'll miss that you weren't present with your loved ones. And think now. We don't have to wait for New Year's Day, right, to start these new goals to be well, whether it's a mindfulness routine or exercise or healthy eating. There's always room for indulging a little, but also doing.
And I think the literature supports the idea that between Thanksgiving and the New Year, the average American gains about 7 pounds. I think that kind of leads to part of the little spiral to some degree. And, if you could just not gain those 7 pounds at this particular time, you're going to look like you're thinner than the other people who are gaining the weight. So that certainly puts you slightly ahead of some of the others. But you can almost see it coming. You can have a little, like you're saying, but I do think the time to start a pattern may be right away, as soon as you feel like you're ready to do it. I don't subscribe to the New Year's resolution thing. I think people get ready to start whenever they feel they're ready to start. And yet I also even think people feel pressured to start a resolution. So,
Right.
We don't need more pressures in our life. So, the idea of priority management, taking care of the things that are most important and letting go of the things that aren't that important. Certainly being totally present when you're with your family members instead of trying to remember all the things they did to you when you were growing up. And I think some of us don't want to let go. It's great to have those memories, but boy, it's almost divine to forget. Just plain forget it, and try to, how are they treating you today? And maybe just go forward with relationships that have been sour in the past that are inevitably going to come up.
Yeah. Take the first step and start a conversation and move your relationship in a different direction, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, continue that. I like the idea of like an intention for the new year as opposed to like a strict, like I'm gonna run 3 miles every day. Make the intention to, focus on your health, or also just be present or be mindful, but don't have this strict goal, because a lot of times then we feel like we fail, and failure is never a good feeling either. Doesn't keep us motivated in the right direction.
There have been times in my life that I have had an unholiday just because I wasn't up to it. And, on a Thanksgiving day, I found myself in rural southern Illinois without the ability to be with family. I could have sat home and been really sad about that. But I decided to get in the car, drive, and go to St. Louis and find a Chinese restaurant that was open and experience something totally new and do something without considering what I was missing.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think also there's if we can look at others and look at the struggles that have been put on them and maybe see other people overcoming those challenges. I also find myself occasionally volunteering or putting myself in a position where I'm helping somebody who's got far less than myself, and it immediately restores that feeling of gratitude. The idea that we work at a wonderful university, we're around a lot of students who are going for it with their lives. We have mostly things positive. Certainly you can dwell on the negative, but boy, if you can just, I say get out of your own pity party, but I'm mainly speaking to myself because inevitably, occasionally, that's the thing I have to do.
Sometimes we all need a pity party too, Dan. Like sometimes we all need to vent. We need to get it out and be able to move on. Like
Okay, you can have a bad,
some power in that too.
You can have a bad morning, or you can have a bad day. I'd even let you have a bad week. But when you start having what you think is a bad life, when you've got a lot of loving people surrounding you and a great cadre of friends, I think that's about the individual pulling yourself out of it. And certainly this is mostly my self-talk. I think what I was mentioning when we were talking earlier is I have my own little strategy. I can't blame it on my parents, my upbringing, my faith. I got to own my stuff.
Right.
The way that I treat people and the way that I am is no one else's fault. I also try not to be petty back to petty people because they're so good at being petty that I look petty when I do this, so I would rather skip that part. It saves me from having to apologize later. I get tired of apologizing. I would also say cut people slack. You know, if you know, give them a break. Don't judge others. Reflect upon yourself when you feel yourself in a situation where, oh my God, they're doing it again. Oh, I'm doing it again too, is what usually inevitably comes over me. And I find that seems to work. Get me out of the moment, you know?
And if your friends and family are tired of listening to you in your pity party, then you call somebody like us.
Right.
And you come in and you sit down, and we'll allow that. And we'll also try to intervene and interject with some things that you can do better. You know, not every culture uses counseling because they have other ways to get support and other people that are kind of built into family and societal structure. But here, you know, I tell people I'm sort of like well, you don't have to pay me, the school pays me, but I'm sort of like a paid friend, and therefore I can't get away. So you can come and tell me whatever you want to tell me and get things off your chest. And we have maybe a little bit softer way to confront some of the things that people might be doing that are not helping themselves.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, Sarah, to keep things simple and scratch a few things off the list, and don't overextend yourself at this time of the year. And if you can plan for the inevitabilities of even if you know, I know this is a stressful time for other people, and I don't want to add to their stress.
Right. Yeah. Keep it simple. Scratch some things off. You know, look at your week and see what you can take out, and be minimal with a week when it seems overwhelming. Back to that seeking gratitude. There's a lot of science about gratitude as we're moving into Thanksgiving next week. You know, having a practice with yourself or your family as you sit down to dinner and identify the things that you're thankful for to kind of change the frame of the conversations even that might be going on and move you in a good direction.
And I mean, I think very positively most of the time, but I can remember my uncle at the Thanksgiving table said, okay, we're going to start with you, Dan. Tell me what you're grateful for, as there's 12 adults sitting at the table. I was like, geez, you should have told me this 10 minutes ago. I could have had my grateful hat on, but you know, don't call anybody else out if you can at this moment either. You know, internalizing it, like you said, reflect upon yourself, and then see if you can be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. I think that's where we're really at our best, when we're helping others and we don't any longer see ourselves as a victim. It's where it kind of works for me, even when things aren't going well. I'm occasionally called a Pollyanna by others, that I somehow am not caught in the downward spiral, even when things aren't going well. So yeah. I don't know, maybe I'm unrealistic.
Like Art said, you know, take a walk, have an exit plan, have something that you know, go do a puzzle with somebody or find something else that you'd rather be doing. Don't get caught in the negative conversation or your own, maybe it's just not even a conversation, but your own negative thoughts, and find something that, go eat Chinese.
Sometimes it's impossible not to get caught. You know, we go on autopilot, we start having conversations with people, and before you know it, we're feeling. Mm-hmm. And we're feeling uncomfortable. And what the brain typically will do, it will swirl, all the thoughts will swirl around that feeling and kind of enumerate all the reasons why that's a valid feeling to have. And what I do with my students is I tell them, you know, that's a point where you've got to do something physically to get that emotion out, or to get it subdued. You know, go take a walk, do some breathing,
lift a few weights,
lift some weights, go kickboxing, you know, whatever it might be, get some energy out. And then when the energies come down and the emotions come down, then our logical brain, our prefrontal cortex, can kick back in and go, okay, things aren't really as bad. What am I grateful for in this moment? What's a good thing that has happened today? What's a good thing that's going to happen to me? People may think that it's a mind game, but you know, that's the way the mind works.
Yeah,
it's a kind of gamey little organ.
I think it's what you're saying also, Art. I think it's okay to be disappointed, but it's when we become discouraged that I begin to worry. You know, we're talking mind, body, spirit. and I agree that if you do something physical, it'll begin to raise your mood somewhat. I think there's also tons of information out there that you can read and analyze and take suggestions from professionals like you guys about what I can do and intellectually with my mind think about that. But when my spirit is broken, when I get down, then it cuts you to your core. And I think that's what we have to set a little bit of a limit to how sad we're going to allow ourselves to be before we do something proactive.
Right. And you have to validate those feelings, like Art was saying. Like, all feelings are okay. All emotions are okay. We have all of them. You have to validate them before you can identify a plan to move past them. So we can't just push it all away and shove it in a neat box deep inside. It's going to bubble back up. Stress does the same thing. It piles and piles until the last block makes it all tumble. You know, process when you can. We've all done it. We've all stuffed inside until we burst. But it's important to validate feelings, identify a plan, decide what you want to do, decide what you don't want to do, and make small steps in the right direction. You know, get outside. Like Art said, take a walk. That helps you clear your mind. You know, that's why we say when people are upset with each other, why we put kids in timeout, right? It's so that we can take a minute to calm down and we can respond without, we can get our emotions out.
It's more for the parent than the child. It's not a punishment, it's for me.
Right. Well, we all need time out too.
And I certainly hope that students out there who are attending ATSU know that Art and Sarah and Tom are readily available for them, and they would prioritize their time to see students. I know you guys take call in the evening, you're available on weekends, some of those things. I'd like to also remind the employees out there that we've got this EAP benefit through MyCigna, gratefully by Human Resources at AT Still, that you can have 3 free sessions a year for mental health and talk with the licensed therapist. This is information that is readily available. If you go to mycigna.com, you can see that out there. You know, maybe in closing, I'd like to thank Jean and Barb and Corey for all they do to make these Lunch and Learns go so well. And also remind you that there is no Lunch and Learn in December, and that this is the last one that for the year. And gosh, that's one less thing to try to fit into your December calendar. And Lunch and Learn will be back in January discussing virtual and alternative reality. That sounds like, you know, going into the holidays, something alternative maybe right here, right now. So we want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Suggest to the others that they can go to the YouTube channel and watch this Lunch and Learn. And want to thank everybody for joining us today, and have a great holiday.
Yep. Bye. Thank you guys.